Hello, I'm Michael, founder of StutterMind. I am a lifelong severe stutterer who now speaks fluently. Yes, it's amazing, isn't it? All right, so in this video, I'm going to talk about the types of stuttering. There are many different types or ways that we stutter. So it's really important we understand the different types so that we can apply different tools to avoid each type of stutter. So it's a foundational, important thing that we have a clear understanding of all the different ways that we stutter. And there's more than one. There's multiple ways that people stutter. And if you are a stutterer, you're familiar with them, but let's walk through some of them, okay? And it's important that coming from a lifelong severe stutterer, I have deep experience in all the different types of stutters. So knowing what it feels like, what's happening in our brains and physically and emotionally, what's happening when we are stuttering. So it's important that we have the right perspective about the causes and what's going on in our brains and so forth, so we can apply those tools. So starting really wide and broad, the most common thing that happens is people have a general fear of public speaking, right? So 3/4 of the population in the world has a fear of public speaking. Very common, happens to most everybody. People don't like speaking at weddings or at the school board meeting or to talk in large groups or social situations, answering questions in class, doing presentations, all of those things, and all the other interactions we have. Often people will have speech anxiety, and what will happen is many things. So their face might turn red as they have anxiety. They may speak too fast. They may forget their words or the message, stumble on their words, get nervous and move back and forth. There's all different things that people do when they have speech anxiety. The StutterMind tools and methods can help those people, most of the people out there, most of you who have speech anxiety. It's a form of stuttering because you're not a very effective speaker. You're not a fluent speaker if you have severe anxiety. So it falls in the spectrum. More traditionally for stutterers, I'll talk about first hard block. It's the one that troubled me the most throughout my life, is having a hard block. And you'll see facial contortions and expressions and frustration as a person is trying to push through or struggle with a hard block. For me, hard block is when my tongue hits the roof of my mouth and blocks the airflow. And I'm trying to say block, or I'm trying to say Tim, or any word, and my tongue gets stuck, and I'll try to push through it, and I'll say, and you feel me struggling, and I'm trying to push and I block the airflow. And that is a very typical way. It's a hard block. It can happen at the beginning of the words where it mostly happens. It can also happen in the middle of a word. Very frustrating. It's amazing. The harder you try, the more tension you get with your tongue, and it just makes it worse. And it's a very difficult and hard thing to overcome. In StutterMind, it's one of the first things we'll talk about, is how to overcome hard blocks. There are many tools we can use to avoid a hard block. All of these ways that we stutter, it's important that we know which tools we want to use to avoid each one of these different types. And there are specific tools made for hard blocks, and we'll talk about those in the member videos. Another way that we block, and for me this was probably my second most challenging way of stuttering, and it was a silent stutter. So words that start with a silent sound, like the word 7. Your vocal cords don't start engagement until you get to the E. And I hated the word 7. I would avoid it. I'd say 8 minus 1, or I would say, it's a quarter to 8. I would not say 7:45, because the word 7 was so hard for me to say. I would say and I couldn't get my vocal cords to engage, and I get stuck on the S sound. So that silent stutter is very typical, happens a lot. We have specific tools that will help you with a silent stutter. All these tools are essential to understand why we stutter and how to overcome them, because we need to build positive speech memories. If you've watched the videos on brain neuroplasticity, we're going to create new neurons, we'll fire and wire them together, but we're going to starve the old connections, and we'll use tools to make sure that we don't continue to hear stutters, and we have ways to avoid that, and we'll talk about that as we get into tools in the member videos. Other ways that we stutter. We can repeat words or sounds. Very typical, you hear it all the time, and you'll say the same word over and over and over again 5 times, 10 times, 20 times, or the first syllable of a word over and over and over, unable to complete that part of the word and continue and link it to the next part of the word and to speak fluently. You get stuck. Maybe we know we can't say the next syllable or sound, and we'll get stuck on that same sound. Often stutterers, we are perfectionists. We want to say it perfectly. I'm going to say it over and over and over until I can say it perfectly, and that's what we do as well. We have tools to help with that as well. Fast speaking. I do this. I still have to work on this. If you get too excited, you'll speak quickly and you'll stumble over your words. You will slur your words. You're hard to understand. You trip on your words, and it's not very fluent speech. So slowing down and not speaking too fast to encounter all the things that naturally happen when you speak too fast is a form of stuttering or disfluent speech as well. Occasionally for me, I can't even start the word or the sound. Complete block, not even, my brain just says, so they'll say, so Michael, what are your thoughts on that? Or what's your name? And I don't even know where to go. I can't even get a sound out. Complete, utter, just silence. And that happened to me quite a bit. Doesn't happen to me anymore. We've got tools that will help you overcome if in fact that you find yourself with a hard, or not a hard block, but if you're unable to even pronounce any sounds. And this happens to people who have a severe stutter, and it happened to me quite a bit. Stuttering, it's very situational. So we know that stuttering, it's not physical. I stuttered severely my whole life, and you're hearing me speak fluently. I didn't have an operation or a surgery. My tongue's the same. It's the same me, my lungs and my vocal cords. Nothing changed. But I have rewired my brain naturally, created new neural pathways, starved the old ones. And now, when those situations come up, I know that I can speak fluently. And as a stutterer, even if you're a severe stutterer, you know that you can speak fluently. If you're in your room and you have a book and you're by yourself, you can sit and read the book without stuttering. That can happen. Then you leave the room and there are your parents, there's your friend, there's your neighbor, and full-on stutter, full-on block. So we know that you can speak. We know that if you whisper, you certainly can speak. It's a great tool that you'll learn, but you can overcome things, and it's situational. So for me, I could speak some of the time, but in most situations, talking to my father, talking to my boss, meeting somebody new, going through the drive-through, ordering coffee at Starbucks. I mean, all the situations that there was any degree of any pressure or anything, I just went on to stutter, and it was very situational for me. So will help you overcome that. So if you're going to go into a situation, how to prepare yourself and how to speak fluently in all situations all the time, not just part of the time. So we've got great tools and methods that are going to help you overcome your situational stuttering. And that was me. Most people are situational stutterers. Some will just stutter 10% of the time, some half the time, some 99% of the time. I was probably in the 90% range because I spoke in public or to people 90% of the time, and then 10% of the time I was relaxed by myself or had certain situations that I could actually speak okay without being completely disfluent. So it is situational and will help you with that. So again, it's really important that we understand all the different types and ways that we stutter, what's going on in our head, and how we can overcome those so that we can avoid those. We have specific tools for each of the different ways that we stutter. I'm very interested if you have other examples of types or situations or what your most challenging situation or experience is for stuttering. Please do share it on the comments below. Sign up, become a member. Let's focus on the tools and the methods to help you become a fluent speaker like me.